Most people are not familiar with the concept of a pension, and this makes sense because over the past 70 to 75 years, it's been disappearing. But the government is one of the last places you can actually still get one. But how much would it be for you? And how would you get it? This is how you calculate it. High 3 salary times years of service times 1%. High 3 salary is the average of the top 3 years. So if you were a GS-13 in Washington, D.C. between step 3 and 5, it would average out to $123,000 a year. So that is the number that you would use. Also with the number 1%, it could be 1.1% if you decide to take the pension at 62 years old with 20 years of service. So that means if you decide to wait, you could end up with a 10% increase in your pension amount. So that takes us to the next question. When can you start drawing it? When can you receive the pension? A lot of people get this wrong. They think for some reason it's 20 years or it has to be 30 years. In some cases, you hear of federal employees retiring after 40 years. It doesn't have to be any of those amounts. In fact, it's 5 years. It's only 5 years. Once you have 5 years in, you're fully vested. That doesn't mean that you can start collecting it at 5 years, but you are now entitled to it after just 5 years. So when can you draw your pension? The first one is age 57, and then age 60, and then 62. This depends on when you were born. How many years of government service do you have? This is why it's so important to get on OPM, run the numbers for yourself to make sure you have an accurate idea on when you can start drawing your pension. Now, if you've been having a hard time getting a government job, I am encouraging you to attend some of these federal virtual hiring events. You can do this from your bed or your living room couch. You just sign on, attend a hiring event. Maybe you can meet a human resource specialist or even a hiring manager. And if you want me to email that information to you, every month I'll give you the hiring event link. So all you have to do is register. Then sign up to my free newsletter down below. Now with the pension, it does matter where you live. Are you in Mississippi or are you in Washington, D.C.? Because there's a difference when it comes to your pay. If you're in Mississippi, you're making 13% less than a person that's in DC right now. That number is factored into your high 3 when you're doing your calculation for your pension. And this is the reason why a lot of people pick up and move to a higher cost area for at least their last 3 years so they can boost their pension amount. Also, I want to address this idea that people have that the federal pension is only 1%. It's only 1% of your salary, so it's not even worth it. That's not true. Because if it were true, take the number of 100,000. If you made 100,000 a year, what's 1% of that? That's $1,000, right? Well, check this out. If you do the calculation, 100,000 times 30 years times 1%, that's $30,000 or $2,500 a month. And the same salary of 100,000 times 5 years times 1% is $5,000 or $400 a month. That's a huge difference. You can't just say that's 1%, so that's not worth it. Is $30,000 extra a year? Is that not worth it? In addition to your Social Security? We're not even counting Social Security. All right, we're going to do another calculation. This time we're going to do GS-12, and that's because GS-12 is the most common GS grade across the entire federal government. If you start working in the federal government at the age of 30 and you do 32 years, leaving as a GS-12 step 7, this is how the calculation would look. 113,000 times 32 years times 1.1% equals $39,789 or an extra $3,300 a month. This is a more common type of situation you'll see a lot of government employees in, and this is because not everybody wants to be a GS-13 or a 14 or a 15, so they're just comfortable being a GS-12. Another thing that you have to keep in consideration when you're talking about pensions, this has nothing to do with the stock market. It doesn't matter if we're in a recession, if the country enters a depression, if the stock market goes up and down like crazy. This is protected from all that volatility. Now, let's talk about what the pension does not cover. Survival benefits, which is optional. Taxes, which is not optional, and health insurance. When you're planning for a retirement, you have to take these things into consideration. Also, remember that the pension is only one component of a 3-pillar system. So when we're talking about federal retirement, we're talking about the federal pension, we're talking about the thrift savings plan, which is like a 401k, and we're also adding in Social Security. And we're doing that because you will have access to all 3 of these pools of money when you reach the age of 60 or 62 or whenever you decide to retire. Many people, they just use their TSP, their thrift savings plan. They're able to grow that amount to $1 million or more, and they just take withdrawals from the TSP. They leave their pension alone. The pension is going into a separate account. They're just saving it. And here's another consideration if you're military. If you're retired military, you can get your retirement from the military. You can also get disability if that pertains to you. Still, you can get a government pension. So that's stacking pensions, which is completely allowed. It's completely legal at this time. Most of all these government jobs, they're on usajobs.gov, the vast majority of them. But some agencies, they don't advertise there. They advertise on their own websites. If you want to find out which agencies are not advertising on usajobs.gov, I want you to watch this video next. If you would like to see more videos like this, please click like and the subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.